President Buhari sympathizes with victims of Boko Haram attack in Garikida, Adamawa State.
Federal government targets $1 billion annually from artisanal mining.
We are going to register all artisanal miners in Nigeria.
Minister reads Riot Act to contractor handling Kano Medigri dualization project.
And the Gaya Woodil section, they are not doing well there.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the economic prospects and future of Nigeria after oil.
Nigeria's crude oil reserves currently estimated to be about 37 billion barrels, 2% of which is produced annually, will run dry in 49 years, Kingsley, and that's according to the nation's Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR.
That's right, Kirian. That was the gloomy picture of the economy sketched recently by the DPR, which is the country's oil sector regulator. Also note that the DPR went ahead to drop the bombshell in spite of touted claims of prospects and discovery of oil in the northern region of the country, as well as rich reserves that are in existence in the Niger Delta region, which for several decades have sustained the country's economy.
That's an economic bombshell, Kingsley, if you ask me. The DPR said it arrived at the oil lifespan or index by measuring the reserves of as of January 1st, 2019, divided by the total production in 2018. Now, the DPR also noted that for government to achieve its tall dream of producing 4 million barrels of crude oil per day and a 40 billion barrels reserves, there is a need for corresponding increase in reserves as production increases.
Well, Kirian, the stats also indicate that Nigeria is inching towards retirement, as it were, as far as oil production is concerned, and that the proverbial rainy day is getting at hand. And now we are here talking about a country that once had agriculture and mining as its mainstay, and that was at all independence until crude oil now became the major source of revenue, while other sectors of the economy were relegated for several decades.
You are indeed right, Kingsley, because some of those sectors were ignored in the past by successive administrations. Well, of course, what has been the oil benchmark predicated by global oil price, not until oil price started fluctuating and becoming uncertain over the last decade, it dawned then on Nigeria that she has to diversify her economy.
As a matter of priority, many economic experts have urged the federal government to fast-track the diversification of the country's economy as the only viable way to survive the current trend of global economic uncertainty, occasioned on the one hand by the volatility of oil price, as well as now the latest revelation by the Department of Petroleum Resources.
Of course, indeed, Kingsley, the agricultural sector is suggested as a possible option for diversifying the Nigerian economy. And of course, the present administration has made some appreciable strides in rice production, and many are still in doubt of how the growth in rice production can be replicated for other cash crops.
All right, Kira, you've mentioned agriculture as one of the sources of diversifying the economy, but obviously, as the conversation gets on today, you will definitely infuse technology into it.
Exactly, because that's inevitable.
Yeah, that's right. Now, but the proverbial rainy day, as we said, is looming. And so what are the alternatives to oil, and how sustainable is Nigeria's economic diversification blueprint? Is it working or is it realistic? And what are the economic potentials of Nigeria's own proven gas reserves put at some 200 trillion cubic feet and unproven reserves estimated at 600 trillion cubic feet? Now that, of course, talking about gas introduces a new dimension to the conversation because you can deal with crude oil on the one hand and also deal with gas on the other hand. So what are the certainties or uncertainties that the country needs to plan for as as the oil markets continue to show their uncertainties.
Yes, not just uncertainty, but fluctuating at every instance. Now, very pertinent questions we have raised, Kingsley, and we have assembled a panel of guests that will respond to these questions and more on Good Morning Nigeria today as we discuss the topic, Nigeria after oil. It's good to have you join us this morning, of course, the 24th day of February 2020. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. Kirian, it's a pretty windy morning today in Abuja.
Oh, yes. It's as early as 5 a.m.
Yes, it's the winds have been whistling. We're not quite sure what's playing out.
No, rain is on its way.
It's still early. It's still early to have a rain. So even though in the afternoon, expect temperatures to notch up to 37, 38 degrees on some occasions. I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian to also welcome you to the program, reaching you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are reaching you from the nation's capital, Abuja. And as always, we have our complimentary segments of the program. And these are newspaper review, business, and if we have the time, obviously, we'll talk about sports. You saw what happened earlier hours of yesterday.
It was an explosive encounter.
Big time. You couldn't have seen a better heavyweight match in recent years. Tyson Fury taking out Deontay Wilder in the 7th round, battered him, of course, throughout the entire...
After boasting he was going to do that.
That's right.
24 hours before time.
That's right. In the meantime, of course, let's listen to the highlights of the morning news. And here is Nolin Abel Ahmed. Nolin, it doesn't appear as if you are a boxing fan anyway, so let's just leave you out of that.
Of course, Kingsley, I am.
Oh, great.
All right, good morning to you and good morning to you, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. President Muhammadu Buhari has condemned Boko Haram attack on Garkida in Adamawa State, extending his sympathy to families of victims. In a statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, the President assures that no part of Nigeria would be abandoned to their fate and describes the attacks of soft targets by the terrorists as obvious signs of frustration, expressing confidence that the terrorists will continue to face the combined power of the military until they give up their mistaken ways. President Buhari says, since the coming of his administration, Boko Haram's ability to invade and occupy Nigerian territories, let alone be able to hoist their flags, had been frustrated. He asserts that in the coming weeks, Nigerians will witness an aggressive campaign to rout Boko Haram once and for all. Similarly, an attack by persons suspected to be Boko Haram terrorists on the peaceful town of Garkida in Gombe local government area of Adamawa State has been thwarted by troops of 232 Battalion of the 23 Armored Brigade Operation Lafia Dole. A press release by the Assistant Director, Army Public Relations, 23 Brigade Yola, Major Haruna Mohammed Sani, indicates that the terrorists besieged the town in gun trucks and a motorcycle, setting some buildings ablaze and causing unrest within the community before they were intercepted by the troops, leading to the elimination of several of the attackers as others withdrew wounded. Regrettably, one gallant soldier paid the supreme price, while another soldier who was wounded in action is responding to treatment in a military medical facility. Meanwhile, normalcy has since returned in Garkida town in Gombe local government area of Adamawa State after the attack by insurgents. Governor Amadu Umaru Fintri, who visited Garkida on a fact-finding mission, pledged government's commitment towards securing lives and property.
We will further reinforce this place with the military. We will recruit more vigilantes and empower them for them to give support to the military. But in the interim, we will send support, particularly palliative, to those affected. The building of the community will also commence immediately.
We have the capacities to stand against them, and that's why we continue to solicit and inform the locals to continue to give us information.
In other news, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says the federal government is targeting about $1 billion annually from artisanal mining if the sector is given the desired attention and support. The minister stated this in an interview ahead of the formal flag-off of the program in Yauri, Kebbi State.
And what this means that we are going to register all artisanal miners in Nigeria, take their biometrics, take their photographs, get their addresses, and then the federal government will now support them in the mining industry. This is the best way to eradicate illegal miners. And then whatever gold with the mine will be bought by the central bank. And we are very confident that with this new initiative, we'll be able to probably make over $1 billion alone in gold.
Minister of State for Works and Housing Abubakar Aliyu has expressed displeasure and concern over the slow pace of work at the Section 1 of Kano-Maiduguri dualization project by the contracting firm, despite funds being released to complete the road infrastructure. The minister, who paid an unscheduled visit to the site, said federal government will not take it lightly.
I want to urge them to push this work because this road is very, very important to the people here and to the nation because it's a major road linking Kano to Maiduguri. And the Gaya-Wudil section, they are not doing well there. So I have directed that they should increase men and machine on this stretch so that they link up Gaya and Wudil before continuing other areas. At the beginning of the project towards Wudil, they have done about 10 kilometers. They have finished complete 100%. And I commended them for that because they have done very well.
The Nigerian Airspace Management Agency, NAMA, has inaugurated its newly installed Category 3 Instrument Landing System ILS at runway 18 right Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, as well as runway 22 at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Also inaugurated is the newly installed Doppler, a very high-frequency omnidirectional radio range DVOR in Lagos. This is in addition to the routine flight calibration, which has been successfully carried out on runway 18 in Lagos. A statement by Director Public Affairs of the Ministry of Aviation, James Odaudu, indicates that calibration of navigational aids in other locations across the country is in progress. That's the news for now. Good morning. Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Kiren after this break. Thank you for watching.
Are you aware that your perfect family may be under threat by germs? Germs can cause infectious diseases like diarrhea, typhoid, and flu. These infectious diseases are amongst the biggest killers of adults and children. In Nigeria, tens of thousands of children under the age of 5 have died due to diarrhea caused by germs, which could easily have been prevented. These illness-causing germs are everywhere. Dirty surfaces, on cuts and wounds, on your clothes, in unclean bathing water. To protect your family from germs, use the power of Dettol's 1 capful. For surface cleaning, for first aid, for your laundry, in your bathing water, and to protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol sure.
Make you no worry yourself. Why you want to carry wahala for your head? Don't be only you get matter for your mind. No. Forget your worries, don't on the door yourself. My brother, free your mind. Enjoyment, don't be crying. Trust the lead to live your life and be free. Free your mind.
with Airtel Smart Talk and enjoy calls to all networks at a flat rate of 11 kobo per second. 7 naira fee on the first call of the day applies. Dial *315 hash to join.
Trust the lead to live your life, free your mind.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Introducing the new and tasty Peak Yogurt. The nourishment to be you, do you, and go for you. Peak Yogurt comes in orange, strawberry, and plain sweetened flavour. All available in nearby stores.
Not so fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down. Do you have a job where you're going to?
No, but someone is arranging,
Listen, Alinko. Checking out of this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin. You know, I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Alinko, it's better to be home than be trapped abroad, or even end up in prison.
My name's Mr. Muftau Abiodun Balogun. We started this business 4 years ago, and this is the production outlet where we do about 4,000 to 5,000 birds per day. With the closure of the border recently, we've been experiencing massive surge in demand. Our sales per day now is going to be between 15 to 20,000 birds. We needed to expand all avenues because of the multiplier effect it's creating. And the most interesting thing about this closure is that many of my farmers today are farmers we recruited recently, and they are young graduates. What the government is doing will lead us right. And I can tell you, if the government sustains this thing, sky will not even be our limit.
You are watching Good Morning Nigeria, our breakfast show on the NTA network service. Now, on business news, Central Bank of Nigeria clarifies operation of domiciliary accounts. Let's now join Kunle Adeyeye for details.
The Apex Bank has formally made clarifications concerning the uncertainties surrounding the operations of domiciliary accounts in the country. The Director of Corporate Communications, Isaac Okorafor, while making the clarification, noted that the bank has not prohibited the acceptance of foreign currency cash deposits by commercial banks. He further explained that only electronic funds transferred into domiciliary accounts can be transferred, while only cash deposits can be withdrawn in cash as well. He therefore urged stakeholders and other interested parties to always endeavor to seek clarification on issues and avoid speculative tendencies which are detrimental to the financial system. In another development, the Nigeria Customs Service has said it is on course to improve its revenue collection and aid trade facilitation to complement federal government's efforts to strengthen the economy. Controller General of the Service, Hamid Ali, emphasized that working with other relevant agencies is aiding its operations.
On industrial innovation and infrastructure, we ensure timely delivery of raw materials for our industries to flourish, support creativity and innovation by providing intellectual property rights protection, implementing government fiscal policy that provides incentives and protection to our industries.
He also disclosed that Customs is also active in the quest to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
All right, thank you very much, Kunle Adeyeye, for the business package. Next is newspaper review.
And let's welcome Bayo Ataibi. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kira. Good morning. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hope you had a pleasant weekend.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
All right, let's begin the review for today with the Daily Sun newspaper. The Daily Sun, just on the right-hand side of the nameplate. APC Governors Forum writes Akonde calls party Trojan horse under Oshomole. Accuses chairman of being dictatorial. Security beefed up around national chairman's Benin residence over bomb threat. The story is on pages 4 and 6. Biles, now my deputy has no forgery case. Governor Diri of Bayelsa State. The story is on page 42. Now the lead story on the Daily Sun newspaper: governors to appoint CPS in Senate's police master plan, with a rider, state police to be independent. It's on page 6. Now, Enugu Airport, fresh fears over reopening date. Abuja, Lagos airports get CAT3 ILS. That's on page 40. Ramadan, Sultan directs Muslims to look for new moon. That's on page 12. Catholics to wear black on Ash Wednesday over insecurity. Federal government incapable of protecting Nigerians, declares bishops. Well, it's on page 40. Yeah, so that's all about it on Daily Sun newspaper for the front page, headlines.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper above the nameplate says, begging, not Islamic, says Emir Sanusi, and ruler cautions on Almajiri. Details on page 37. Ex-Naval director forfeits 500 million naira to federal government and court okays action. Details on page 10. Kwankwanso ignorant of legal procedure as Kano tackles ex-governor. That's on page 43. Below the name flag, CBN sets rules for domiciliary account. NEC, that's the Electricity Regulatory Commission, begins consultation on new electricity tariff. Inside the paper in further detail on pages 41 and 37, Amotekun, not for secession. My plans for Bayelsa by Miracle Governor Diri. Miracle Governor, of course, is putting quotes there. Then the photographs there on the front page say Boko Haram burns churches as Buhari orders aggressive campaign. Those are the burnt out structures. One to the extreme left is the EYN church burned down by insurgents in Garkida. That was at the weekend. Another building razed by Boko Haram insurgents, and a Living Faith church also touched by the insurgents in Garkida. Governors upset by excess crude account depletion. With rider talks on insecurity and reconciliation of oil receipts for next Thursday's meeting. And then Supreme Court to hear APC's request for Bayelsa judgment's review on Wednesday. That's this week. Details on page 37. Bayo.
Yeah, let's start with the invasion of Garkida last Friday by the insurgent Boko Haram. President Muhammadu Buhari says that the terrorist Boko Haram will continue to face the combined power of our military until they give up their mistaken ways. He was reacting and sympathizing with persons in Garkida who saw 7 trucks of insurgents and motorcycles invading the town on Friday. Soldiers of 232 Battalion were into there and routed out the insurgents, killing many of them and many of them sustaining injuries. 2 of our compatriot soldiers lost their lives in the battle. Meanwhile, the president says that in no distant future, Boko Haram will be decimated and we'll see an end of them in weeks coming. Soldiers of 32 Brigade are currently patrolling Garkida to sustain their vigilance. They had entered the town, burned churches, burned private homes, burned markets, and were looting, looking for food to take to their area. So far, there has not been any pronouncement from Amnesty. They've not even indicated what their satellite imagery is reading from the invasion from Garkida. It will be recalled that Amnesty International have reported about its satellite imagery and what it saw on villages along Maiduguri Damaturu Road when there was recent attack and they alleged that soldiers had ransacked the villages. The Nigerian Army High Command has denied that allegation. The Supreme Court is to hear an application for the review of the All Progressive Congress governorship election of February 13th that was overruled and for which the APC victory was overturned for the People Democratic Party in Bayelsa. An application which was filed on the 21st of February is to be heard this Wednesday. Also at the Supreme Court, it will be held that this same week there will be a ruling of two other cases. The earlier one was the Supreme Court vitiation of all the APC candidates in the 2019 election in Zamfara, as well as the upturning of the victory of Emeka Ihedioha as governor of Imo State. So this week is very critical for the review of those three cases at the hearing at the Apex Court.
Yes, Nigerians are waiting. So until that happens, we don't know the direction the Supreme Court is going to take.
I was wondering, I mean, did the Supreme Court registry change the date of the hearing? I thought they said the hearing would take place on the 2nd of March. Earlier. Yeah, 2nd of March. That's for the Igbo
and
case.
Zamfara.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. It will take place on the 2nd of March. So we'll see how those things play out. But this report about the CBN setting rules for domiciliary account, they said, well, the Corporate Affairs Communications Director of the CBN made a clarification. I think it needs to make further clarification because the clarification, as reported, doesn't suffice. Because, I mean, the gravamen, that's to say the pith of what is being reported here is as follows. It says that only electronic fund transfers into domiciliary accounts can be transferred from such accounts, while cash deposits into such accounts can only be withdrawn in cash also. So there are two modes of feeding domiciliary accounts.
Yes.
Either you pay cash into it or by electronic transfer. Now, so which electronic transfer is it referring to? Is it electronic transfer, say you go to a bureau de change operator, who makes a transfer from his own account electronically into a domiciliary account, or you just buy cash from him, dollars or pounds or euro, and then you go and pay. That's cash. Mm-hmm. Domiciliary, or is it when you earn dollars or somebody sends money to you from abroad that will be regarded solely as electronic transfer, funds transfer? That clarification is necessary.
It's required. My simple understanding of what the clarification is that domiciliary account is a foreign currency account, either in dollars or pounds sterling or whatever. Now, my understanding of it simply is that if you had paid foreign currency into that account physically, you can withdraw physically. You can withdraw by electronic transfer. If, however, you paid funds into the account by means of electronic transfer, you use the same means to withdraw from that account. That is my simple understanding of it. But like you pointed out, it can be very ambiguous.
It's a little bit confusing. It's a little bit confusing. And one would also like to ask why the sudden change. Is it a regulatory measure or something? And what does it intend to achieve by so doing? Because if you bring about such changes, it is believe that it's going to yield a result. So what is the target? What is the target of central bank? By so what is the objective,
what is the purpose of a domiciliary account? Because here he's saying, let me take it again. I'm sure that these bankers would have a better understanding of this. But it says, only electronic fund transfer into domiciliary account can be transferred from such accounts. Can be transferred. What is the purpose of maintaining a domiciliary account? And how do you feed a domiciliary account? One, by electronic fund transfer. Two, by cash. So it is not as if you don't have a transaction, assuming you have a transaction, and you need to wire the money to a designated account outside of the shores of this country, and you had fed the account with cash, what he's saying is that that transaction is not possible.
I think that what the central bank is striving at is to ensure that we do not transact business within Nigeria in foreign currency. That's another angle to it. Because if you have to make payments via via electronic transfer locally. You're buying something, you want to pay with dollars or euro, as case maybe. I think that's what they're trying to avoid. So you don't transact.
No, Kira, let's have a simple. I want to order books, for instance, from Amazon or some other business, and books. I didn't say book. That's right. And the books probably worth, just again, by way of example, $300 or $500. And I had money in my domiciliary account, with part of it cash, part of it maybe electronic transfer. And I said, okay, I want to transfer $300 or $350 to Amazon to complete that particular transaction. From what I'm reading now, it appears that, okay, assuming I had $200 in cash, and then maybe the balance of $100 electronic funds transfer, I would not be in a position to wholly transfer $300 to Amazon to enable me buy the books.
Yes. From what I've read, that is interpretation. That's what I'm saying. They want to avoid internal transaction in Nigeria with foreign currency. That's what I think.
The central bank must have intent, but from the example Kingsley has given, it simply means that since that money you have in your domiciliary account, if you had paid in by cash, then your transaction has to go by cash. If it is by electronic transfer, similarly, you can only transact by
the cash office?
That is my ordinary man understanding of
That's
it.
right.
That's another story of the governors to appoint CPS in Senate's police master plan. So I don't know. Have you read the story?
Well, it's interesting. It's part of the developments looking about the police and giving authority to the Commissioner of Police. The contention now is that the Commissioner of Police does not have authority unless he gets orders from headquarters in Abuja, and therefore that is becoming an obstacle. I think it's part of the politics, because look back, just about 3 years ago, kidnapping was a big problem in Lagos. You remember 2 secondary schools that had kidnappers visiting them. What did the governor do? He summoned his security council, put together a task force comprising the army, navy, military, and the police, and they were able to take the war to the den of the hideouts of the kidnappers, routed them, and up till today, that thing has gone down. They didn't have to necessarily refer to the headquarters. What I mean here is that a commissioner of police had command to tackle crime and criminality in his area of jurisdiction.
So are you saying
if it is beyond his control, he has area AIGs in the immediate combination of states for which he could call for support. If it goes beyond them, the governor has alternative. There's a brigade commander in every state.
The Lagos example that you just stated now, did the governor require such powers to control the CP, it's a CP, to be able to achieve that? He said he raised a task force, a combined task force of police and all of that. So does it require a governor to have direct control over the CP for that to happen? Because if that can happen in Lagos, why not other governors do that or replicate it in terms of fighting?
I am at large why every state has a security council, which the governor chairs because he's the chief security officer. And the instrumentality of this is to use the various security forces, including the commissioner of police and the brigade commander in that state, for the purposes of maintaining law and order.
Yeah, we all know that that is on paper. In practice, because on Friday, that was a topic that we discussed, community police and community policing. We had 2 governors on the program, the governor of Plateau State, and who was here with us in the studios, and the governor of Ondo, who joined us via Skype. And of course, all of these issues that you are raising now were also matters that they came up. Part of the challenge is that commissioners of police, when they are given instructions by state governors, commissioners of police will say they want to revert to Abuja. Abuja is the first headquarters. This one, they will now say that, I don't know how they want to amend it, that governors will now appoint commissioners of police on the recommendation of first headquarters or the police service commission. It all depends on...
I think it's a constitutional matter. It's a constitutional matter because for a state governor to appoint a commissioner of police in the state, that means that he is in charge. He is in charge, in terms of giving directives to the CP. CP does not have any need again to make reference to, IGs or AIGs, as the case may be, to take action in that particular state. And that brings us to the issue of state police. Which, of course, because if a governor can appoint a CP, why not have a police of his own, as a state?
Well, I think almost invariably we'll get to that. Nigerian.
All right, editorials now. Blocking multinationals' $10 billion tax leakage. Now, with federal government expenditure on the rise, debt servicing gulping trillions of naira, and revenue generation erratic, it is not surprising that the Federal Inland Revenue Service has set its stock on blocking leakages in tax collection. In a belated initiative to expand revenue, the FIRS chairman, Mohammed Nami, says the organization will go after multinationals not fulfilling their tax obligations, which he currently estimates at billions of dollars. His statement on recovering the arrears is a familiar to refrain that does not have whatever. Let me take that again. He said his statement on recovering the arrears is a familiar terrain that does not offer much excitement. However, Nami should go the whole hog to achieve his target.
Well, the new chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Services has been going around the country on familiarization after assuming duty. And the concern has been that, yes, one of the areas that he intends to focus is multinationals who actually now are not meeting their tax obligations. And the editorial is saying that this should go beyond rhetorics, because in the past there have been such rhetorics, and therefore we require practical terms to ensure that such taxes that are outstanding are retrieved. Particularly, the editorial is recommending the usage of technology to aid in the Federal Inland Revenue Services to make sure that they are up to task and are able to recover all outstanding tax. We're all aware that our budget subsequently have always been in deficit, and this is because of a shortfall from revenue to carry out the expenditure that is projected in the budget. Therefore, if we must move forward, then there is need to also ensure that every dime that is owed the federal government are retrieved. And it is now the challenge of the chairman, the new chairman, Mohammed Nami, to make good this his threat that multinationals who own Nigeria will not be allowed to go free. They should use every possible means to recover every dime, every dollar that is owed the nation.
Asking back, is it really possible for a Nigerian company operating elsewhere across the globe to owe that country of taxes? Is it possible?
Well, it's possible to owe, but they will ensure that you regurgitate whatever you owe the government.
Exactly. Yes. So that's why I wanted, because of course from this text it does mean that there's been in that fight for a long time.
Absolutely.
This is not the first time. It's been there. It's been there. So what will make a multinational not to pay taxes? And this multinational is still existing, operating, and functioning in Nigeria, and you're not paying tax. In countries like Sweden, the economy is based on tax. If you don't pay tax, you go to jail. There are no two ways about it. In Spain and many other European countries.
It's in countries where tax laws are rigorously enforced. That's the norm. I think sometimes, again, of course, the role of MNCs, multinational corporations, particularly in emerging economies or the so-called third world, where sometimes they operate virtually as parallel governments.
Yes.
Okay, so that does it for us. I'm sure our readers will be interested in some other stories inside the paper. I said the Nation. So NGOs ask court to halt plans by reps to buy 400 exotic cars.
And there's another report to that. Buying 400 exotic cars, there's also a vigilance to ensure that refurbished cars are not bought instead of the brand new cars.
Brand new ones.
And the money is going to which country now? Because what is the brand? It's going to a country now. I mean,
certainly it's not.
We don't manufacture cars.
It's not from innocent.
Exactly. So it's going to.
Okay, Baya Toebe, thanks a lot for being
Thank
around.
you too.
We'll see you again tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll be dealing with Nigeria after oil, the role of economic diversification.
We'll be able to unite, irrespective of tribe, religion, and culture. So we keep preaching on love. That is the only binding force. Let us love ourselves, irrespective of where the person comes from.
You are about to witness the commencement of the most stimulating and compelling contest on television. This contest is only for the strong, the intelligent, and the talented. Get ready for the Unity Challenge reality TV show. Coming soon.
Breakfast your day. Every day. Every day.
Nestle, good food, good life.
As you know, kids' exam time is exam time for moms too. The child prepares intensely, so does the mom, taking care of every little thing. But germs can ruin it all. What if he falls ill on his exam day?
Every single day is important for kids. That's why they need Dettol soap. It protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Everyday protection, everyday Dettol.
65 grams, now 150 naira.
New digital technologies have thrown up new opportunities for online news gathering, reporting and management. NTA TV College invites online reporters, journalists, public relations practitioners, multimedia producers and freelance reporters to a special 2-week intensive course on intermediate online news reporting skills. Take advantage of the course to upscale your skills in computer-assisted reporting, social media content production strategies, online media platforms for information dissemination and management. Date 2nd to 13th March 2020. Course fee 80,000 naira per participant. Accommodation inclusive. Also running is a special 4-week intensive course on modern trends in broadcast media marketing. It is an essential course for the sales force in the broadcast media, in the public and private sector to sharpen their skills and improve their capacities to deal with contemporary marketing challenges and competitors. Date 16th March to 9th April 2020. Course fee 100,000 naira only per participant. Accommodation inclusive. The venue for both courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA TV College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA TV College, Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
The program is Good Morning Nigeria, and for our conversation this morning, we are looking at the economic prospects for Nigeria as we count down to the depletion of our oil reserves, which the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR, has predicted will dry up in the next 49 years. And to set the tone for the conversation, here is Kunle Adeye with a background report.
For over 5 decades, Nigeria's income has come mainly from the oil and gas sector. Other sectors like agriculture, which was the country's economic mainstay, and mining have been relegated and neglected since oil discovery. But with fluctuating global oil price since 2014, the need to diversify the economy has since dawned on Nigeria. As uncertainty beclouds the global oil market, the Department of Petroleum Resources recently revealed that Nigeria's oil reserves, which currently stands at 37 billion barrels, will run dry in 49 years' time. The DPR also advised that to achieve government's aspiration of 4 million barrels per day production and reserves of over 40 billion barrels, there is need for corresponding increase in reserves as production increases. Besides this disclosure by the DPR, some European countries that used to be oil dependent are now working on different technological projects that will enable them use electric vehicles soon. The direct consequence of this move is that there will be a major drop in the demand for crude oil. What does Nigeria need to put in place to ensure it is not caught in the web of economic uncertainty in the near future? Is discovery of oil in other parts of the country a remedy? How realistic and effective is the diversification drive of the federal government? Do we start looking inwards and save for the rainy day? These and more questions will engage guests on Good Morning Nigeria shortly.
All right. Thank you very much, Kunle Adeyeye, for the background. We have with us in the studios here in Abuja as well as Lagos to discuss this. Let's welcome Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Adetokunbo Kayode. He has been a Minister of the Federal Republic, manning several portfolios, culture, tourism, labor, justice, and now is President of Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Also here with us is another regular guest on Good Morning, Dr. Emeka Okengo. Is an economist, but he prefers to be called a farmer.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Nigeria. It's good to be here.
Pleasure to have you with us. Dr. Andrew Kwasari is Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agriculture in the Office of the Vice President. Pleasure to have you around on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and joining us from Lagos is Dr. Musa Zagi. He is the Head Gas Monitoring and Regulation in the Department of Petroleum Resources, DPR. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
And also in Lagos, we have Chief Eric Umofia. He is a manufacturer and Chief Executive Officer at Risco Foods Limited. Many thanks for joining us, and it's good to see you again.
Good morning, Nigerian.
All right, gentlemen, let's begin the conversation from our Lagos Network Center, where we just introduced the two guests, Dr. Musa Zagi, who is of DPR. Dr. Musa Zagi, let's have some more insight into the forecast by DPR with regard to the exhaustion of Nigeria's crude oil reserves. What exactly are we talking about here? DPR says, and it was widely reported last week, that in some 50 years, less one, Nigeria's crude oil reserves will be gone. So how do we prepare for the rainy day? Are we talking about crude oil strictly, or we're talking about crude oil and gas?
We are talking of just crude oil, strictly speaking, because for the last 10 years, we have been hovering on 37 billion barrels reserves. We are unable to significantly increase the reserve base of the crude oil. So, but you see, the good news about this is we have the potential of about 600 trillion standard cubic feet of gas in Nigeria. For now, the reserve is 202 trillion standard cubic feet of gas we have in Nigeria, which we are unable to use effectively. Part of the reasons why we are unable to make a maximum utilization of this oil is due to infrastructural deficit we have in the country. But government is making deliberate efforts to make sure that this equipment, these infrastructures are put in place. Another reason is the disparity in the gas price between the domestic market and international market. But for now, even then, though we have about 200 trillion standard cubic feet of gas in reserves, it's strange. It's very paradoxical that as a country, we still import the gas and its derivatives to Nigeria for the use by the common man. So the federal government now, deliberately because of this, have come out with some programs to make sure that this gas reach to the people. The Honorable Minister of Petroleum Resources has declared this year as the year of gas, and then he subsequently launched the National Committee or the program of a program on expansion program for gas, so that the gas will reach everybody in Nigeria. So through this program, he set up about 3 subcommittees, a committee on LPG and a committee on CNG and a committee on gas-based industries. The purpose of this committee is to make sure that this gas is made available to Nigerians is also made affordable and accessible to Nigerians. And in doing so, we are able to preserve the scarce foreign exchange, which will strengthen as a country importing these products. And we are also going to create jobs. Now, coming to talk about the infrastructural deficit, which is one of the major reasons why these gas resources are not available to the common man, there are deliberate efforts to expand the capacity of this of these pipelines or infrastructures. For now, we have the capacity to have about 2.5 billion scf. Our national gas requirement hovers between 3.8 to 4 billion scf. But for now, the capacity we have is 2.5 billion scf. But there are deliberate efforts by the government through, some major gas pipeline projects. You can see we have Abuja for Obrakon, OVM pipeline, which is a 48-inch pipeline and about 130 kilometers from Port Harcourt to Oben in Delta State.
Right. We are going to remain with you because you are touching other issues that may not necessarily be in focus for this particular edition of Good Morning Nigeria. But I want to bring you back. All right. Sorry for pausing you because I was just informing you that you drifted a bit. But all the same, you are in order. But let's bring you back to the issue of oil reserve. I want Nigerians to really have a good understanding of what we're talking about. Are we talking about reserve, the quantum of what Nigeria has, or the ones, if we had a good infrastructure, we ought to have? Because you have mentioned that lack of infrastructure is actually part of the reason why we have this record of about 37 billion barrels as reserve. America, for instance, has over 264 billion barrels of recoverable oil reserve, followed by Russia with about 256 or thereabouts. And again, talking about countries that could be at the same level with Nigeria, like Iran, for instance, it has over 143, and Brazil 120. These are oil reserves. Please let us understand why we have just 37 billion oil reserve. Let Nigerians understand what we're talking about.
37 billion barrels reserves because there are no deliberate efforts to explore the oils by the IOCs. And the ones we have, like I said, in the last 10 years, we are being on this 37 billion barrels of oil reserves. Imagine you keep producing about 2 million barrels per day, and there is no corresponding increment in the reserves. So definitely the reserve volume is going to fall in the next 40 years, especially that now the global focus is shifting from the oil exploration to other sources, like you earlier said in your opening remarks. So there is no kind of incentives given the kind of international focus on diversifying from fossil fuels to renewable energy. So that's why I now talk about gas reserves, which you are more of a gas nation as a country. We are having over 600 trillion. That is our potentials, like I said. But for now, we have 200 trillion, 202 actually trillion standard cubic feet of gas. So I'm saying that we can do away, we are shifting as a nation from oil to gas so that we make maximum utilization of this God-given resource which we have, which hitherto we are unable to utilize effectively because of lack of infrastructure. So I was moving from the reserves to infrastructural deficit that made us not to be able to achieve the maximum utilization of the gas which we have, which government is deliberately now addressing the issue of the infrastructural deficit. Government, like I said, has launched a lot of programs. There's a program on commercializing the players we have, which will give us almost 800 million scf per day if we do that. So as a nation, we even if the oil get depleted, we have the gas. We are a gas nation. We are able to now at least use the gas resources we have to diversify our economy, to freeze the hard foreign currency which we spend, import oil. Imagine now, I think if we take the word of the Federal Minister of Finance, we use in the budget this year, she said we are going to use about 400 billion naira for under recovery. But the data we have from FIFER said 750 billion naira, is going to be used for under recovery. So imagine we have now diversified to the use of gas on our vehicles, in our generators, wearing our industry, gas-based industries. We are going to save a significant amount of money in fortune funds, because the 750 billion naira for under recovery, you see that amount, if federal government can use that money to at least shift us from using the fuel which is imported, that is more than enough to retrofit about 3 million cars. And if you retrofit 3 million cars to use CNG, you are able to make Nigerians save over 50% of what they would have.
All right, Dr. Musa Zage, thank you very much. We'll return to our Lagos Network Center shortly. But I bet, Kieran, the key point that needed to be established is that the exhaustion of Nigeria's oil reserves would not necessarily spell the end of what is generally referred to as the petroleum industry, because we still have gas to deal with, and there are huge opportunities in the gas industry, or in the gas sector, which we haven't started to tap yet. But let's bring in Dr. Emeka Okengu. Dr. Emeka Okengu, Nigeria after oil obviously speaks to diversification of the economy, and they need to ramp up other sectors in such a way that as revenues are dwindling from oil as we know it, other sectors are also picking up, just as you have in a number of advanced countries. Are we on the right path?
Again, Kingsley, thank you. And let me, as I usually do, crave your indulgence to step a little bit aside and let's be able to put this in proper context. What was Nigeria during oil? What role did oil play in the lives of Nigeria? Apart from probably making us a country that was credit-worthy, you also shifted us away completely from our capacity to be able to grow as a nation state. It's important to establish that, so that when we're going to be talking about Nigeria after oil, are we going to be looking at a Nigeria that was doing oil? Is that the Nigeria we want after oil? And if it is not Nigeria we want after oil, what do we need to begin to do? I think that is the focus of our conversation today. My brother in Lagos had brought out two very disturbing facts for me. One is that we are still looking at the IOCs and their incapacity or inability or unwillingness to explore for further resources has actually pegged us at where we are now. Okay? So what it simply means is that we'll make you, we'll break you. That's the message I got there. And the second message you talked about, us being a gas country, is an old song, like I keep singing. Now we can have all the whole trillion, billion, zillion cubic feet of gas. Until we know what gas is, until we know what gas can be, until we know what gas can do for us, we are not a country. Again, let's now look at Nigeria after oil. And everybody keeps talking about what agriculture did for us. And each time they bring that conversation, I say, yes, it's a very good conversation to actually have. What was agriculture? And what kind of agriculture did we have that made us, what you call a member or gave us a seat in the Committee of State? Was it agriculture that was based on our demands? Or was it agriculture that was fostered for us to be able to now help other people to be able to grow their industries? And this is what happened. It's important to have this clearly, so that in also planning our Nigeria after oil, are we going to be going back to the Nigeria of the cash crop days where you had people who wanted our products, and the moment they didn't want it anymore, now what had happened was that those lands they took to plant the cash crops they needed were lands that would have been able to make us food secure, and has actually made us food insecure. So in looking at agriculture, again, as a way to go, we must only look at it from, was agriculture actually the way it was supposed to be in a country that needed to evolve into a nation state? And then you come to the other angle now, which is again where everybody talks about the mining sector. Okay? When the mining sector was contributing 12% in real terms to the GDP, what kind of mining did we have? Okay, what kind of support infrastructure? What kind of activities? Who controlled it? To what extent did the states play? At that point in time where you had the mining sector contributing so much, to our economy. So for me, my opening statement would be that in designing our Nigeria after oil, but I hate to use the word after oil because as far as I'm concerned, one thing that Nigerians should be very, very sad to discuss, okay, is Nigeria during oil. Because everything that has gone wrong with our country went wrong with Nigeria in oil, okay? And I think in designing a new Nigeria going forward, and we're now going to be talking about, what I rather call our natural resources, so that we can be able to contain them well, okay? And this is where we'll be talking about our science and technology. And against that, we should be talking about our human capital, or what you call our human resources. Because every time you see politicians or you see statesmen come to make speeches, the first thing you hear, endowed with numerous human resources, endowed with numerous natural resources. And then you say to them, can we now have a number of these, your numerous? Okay, and because of these numerous, we are planning our GDP against nothing. Okay, we are planning our economic development programs against numerous. And I can tell you in development, numerous is just a perception, if you may. So I think in moving our country after oil, I wish this 37 million was actually 3.7, 37 billion was 3.7 million, or that the man in DPR was asserting us that we were on our last well. I can tell you, my brother, I keep saying this. Each time I go to Europe and I see the kind of things that they do there, my heart bleeds. For a country that has 81 million hectares of land that is arable, we have so much that we can be able to do if we were just able to understand that your human resource is actually the beginning of the process to human capital, and that your natural resource and what you do with it is actually the reasons why you're poor or rich, and where you have the space or place you have in what we call the Committee of Nations.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kengu. And that brings us to a point where we will bring in the son with us here, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Dr. Kumbo Kayode. Sir, you've been in government in different capacities. And of course, Nigeria has run on oil for nearly 60 years now. And if you listened to Dr. King, who has raised some very pertinent issues concerning governance, concerning deliverables, other sectors apart from oil. Now we are talking about Nigeria after oil. Nigeria during oil, I'm not sure, we fared well, according to Dr. Okengu. So how did you feel when you received the bombshell from DPR that our oil is depleting, and of course in the next 49 years it will be no more?
Thank you very much. First of all, I don't think it is a news that we will deplete our resources in oil. We always knew it was a depleting resource. We always knew that. So I just this failure or inability to do anything about it. First of all, a depleting resource is a depleting resource. Let's understand that. Whether oil has been a good thing or a cause for us is open debate. We all debate this all the time. For me, I want to think about the way forward. And again, the way forward is there, staring us in the face. First of all, we should learn some lessons from what has happened. We're very dependent, very rent-seeking approach to this. We rely on the IOCs to dig for the oil, we rely on the IOCs to move the oil out, we rely on them to pay us. We rely on them to even process this crude oil, because we are just a crude oil nation. We import petrol, we import diesel, we import everything. Even we import our own gas, processed gas, our own gas. So what is the lesson? From today, all we just need is a direction, policy direction from government. We need to process what we have in terms of the remaining gas or oil. We need to emphasize more on processing rather than importing. And that is doable, very, very doable. If, for instance, DPR or the Ministry of Petroleum Resources would just make it easier for people to do refinery in Nigeria. We've been talking about modular refineries and all that. We'll begin to add value. You see, we don't create, there's no value addition to the oil that we have. Even now that we still have 40 something, there's no value addition. And that's why we create the value chain that makes the economy to work. But going forward, really, many countries who are surviving today have not really been dependent on natural resources. We know many countries, Korea, Japan, all those, what natural resources they really have. But they use the people to create value. People talk of human capital and knowledge economy. So that is a way forward for the world, and we have it. When it comes to ability to think, we have it. And we have lots of people. You know, having a large population is an advantage, even though it's also a disadvantage if you do not use it properly. So let us use it. Let us emphasize knowledge economy, and let us emphasize agriculture, which we have arable land. My brother here, Dr. Andrew, knew me recently, because I've been, even though I have a legal background and whatever, but I've been so concerned about certain basic things about agriculture. So I sought him out. We had a roundtable in the Chamber of Commerce to talk about livestock. Strange, isn't it? But I sought him out. Is that not so? I sought him out to talk about livestock and look at the huge opportunity there. So, and this is just one tiny part of agriculture. You know, so there's a lot we can do. Doctor here made this very good point about what was our focus on agriculture before in the past, where we do groundnut pyramids. We didn't even keen to the value chain of that, or the palm oil value chain, and the cocoa value chain. We still export cocoa, for instance. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's just a matter of policy. If Ondo State today says that, okay, you can, all the Indians and Chinese that buy all the cocoa from the farm, you can buy your cocoa, but you cannot take raw cocoa out of Ondo State. You must process it up to a point. You see the value chain being created. Again, if you go to Bangkok, they do gemstone processing, and Nigeria is the source of at least 30% of that gemstone. Again, our government don't know this, because the structure is designed for us not to know. Now, you can take all the gemstones in, but you cannot take them out. You must process before you take out. That is using knowledge economy, creating a value chain for yourself. So we have to key into this. And this is not really too difficult, honestly. It's just a matter of policy.
But you know,
so put on policy.
You know, give us your experience, the benefit of your experience in government. Because, frankly, this is not a new thing to talk about how to diversify the economy and how to worry about life after oil, as it were. I mean, all of these ideas, keep popping up. But why have we not created a critical mass? Why? What's the missing link?
Okay.
Yes.
Based on my own experience in 4 or 5 years in government, I think there's a huge gap in our policy making process. I can tell you, and I stand to be challenged or corrected, that in the Federal Executive Council, or first of all, Federal Executive Council is not a policy body. You'll be shocked, but they don't discuss policy. There's no way you can bring up issue of policy, because you come there with your memo, is that is approved or it's not approved, then you move on. There's no platform for policy. And secondly, there's this huge gap about monitoring and evaluation. Even the little policies we have, are they being done? And that is at the presidential level. You know, there are 2 levels of government in Nigeria, and you need to know this. So when people say, oh, this minister did this, or even the little policy we make at the villa level, somebody else has to implement it at the ministry level. And they are never at Edem. Well, I use Latin word. They are never on the same page. So it really involves strong leadership and that's the gap, really. You can go everywhere you like. If you take a decision today and you put your foot down, you put milestones and timelines, it is doable. It is doable. We have seen it. When I left government, I came back to the private sector, and it's shocking, because what I can achieve in my office in a day, you can't achieve in a ministry in a year. And every new idea is fought. The system fights it. The system fights it, even everywhere, you know. So, and where the country is bleeding. And one of the things that pains me most, sometimes you regret, why do you even take appointment? Because in my about 38 years of professional life, I worked for government for 5 years. I've been in private sector. And you find out that people ask you, what did you achieve when you were there? I said, look, you want to do this, you have to fight every inch of the way. You are in civil service, you know what I'm talking about. You have to fight every inch of the way. And you don't get the backing because there's no policy buy-in. And if something is pushed out, you spend 1 year in one ministry. For instance, I was in defense for 1 year. Within the 3 years before that, there were 3 ministers. So in 4 years, there were 4 ministers in the Ministry of Defense. So I just take that as an iconic example of what I'm talking about. So how does policy, even if it's there at all, how does it get implemented and ensure that it's done?
Yeah. You know, I can't understand, but the points you have raised are important. Policy formulation and implementation, the major challenges that we face.
Monitoring and evaluation.
Yeah, monitoring and evaluation. President Obasanjo tried to set up, some monitoring and evaluation mechanism, but it didn't quite work. Kirian, you see what we are faced with here. Yes, we can have all the specification, all the claims to say we want to diversify the economy. You hear it from the top, you hear it from top-ranking government officials. But when it comes to, say, the brass tacks, getting things to work, that's part of what the SAN is referring to. But Andrew Kwasari, let's get your own experience specific to agriculture.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I want to thank the previous speakers again. So first and foremost, I would like to again set a little bit of context here, that globally, there are fewer than 3 nations that are developed today that got developed by skipping agriculture. All nations in the world started their process of development by getting agriculture right. And getting agriculture right formed the foundation. I think I could be corrected. Outside Singapore, I don't know any other country that is developed today that didn't, first of all, lay the appropriate foundations for its development, economic development on agriculture. Secondly, I would like to state that in agriculture, what San has just said, or generally, but let me restrict myself to agriculture because I want to make my point clear. The issue with Nigeria is not about policies. It's about policy implementation, the capacity to execute the policies we have. And therefore, this rests squarely on the institutions, particularly the civil service or the public service institutions that are meant to execute these policies. Then let me now set 2 more or 1 more context before commenting on Nigeria after oil. Is that globally, countries develop when 4 factors are in place. In the modern world, we have seen rapid development when there is technological advancement in everything, particularly now in agriculture. So I want to speak to agriculture. So the progress of technology is one. The progress of technology forms a pair when it has a handshake with capitalism or private capital. So these 2, they drive development economically. The third and the fourth is good governance and public awareness, which to some extent, the topic we're discussing today is a kind of public awareness flagged off by DPR, which is not news at all. It is not news that Nigeria or global economies have passed the peak of importance of oil, or oil as very important to economy. We've passed its peak importance long ago. So whether it is going to run out or not run out, it is not really relevant. That is not news at all, as San said. Then the last component I want to add then, before I make another clear statements on agriculture is the issue of resources. We have two types of resources. We have the limited resources or non-renewable resources like the oil we are talking about and all of that. But there's a critical resource that Dr. mentioned and San mentioned, which is the human capital. And I think as a people, it's still fresh in our mind that the 2018 Nobel Prize winner who shared Nobel Prize in economics, Paul Ruma, his reason for winning Nobel Prize 2018 was his essay or whatever on what he called endogenous technologies. And what does it mean? It means human capital, that this is another resource that is inexhaustible because it is just the ability of ideas to recombine new technologies, that as long as ideas continue to be available to recombine, then you can never run out of it. So it is not a resource like oil that we can run out of. So now put this in context. What do we need for agriculture? And the speakers have all said it. The agriculture of the yesteryears is not the type of agriculture Nigeria needs to move forward after oil, where you basically produce raw materials and exported them, what they call cash crops. We need today to allow, and I'm sure the federal government and has to work with the state government, all the problems are known. What we need is how do we sharpen execution? How do we sharpen execution in a way that agriculture can allow space for technology to advance?
What have you found as a challenge with this particular point? You know, in your interaction, why is it that when we have all the ideas, just to put them on ground to work, what have you found?
It's the capacity to execute. And let me tell you what I found. The policies are there. Even now, the current sectoral policy in agriculture, the agriculture promotion policy, if implemented well, you will see the result. And now, why is implementation a challenge? Because the institutions that are meant to implement have to have the capacity to implement. And it's basically the civil service.
I'm leaping it again. I'm leaping it again. And yet, we talk about the fact that we have human resources in Nigeria.
Yes, we have human resources, sir. And let me tell you how it works. Your execution is only as good as your tools. Your tool, if a human resource, in this case is our tool, the institutions of government, if they are sharp or blunt, you will get sharp or blunt execution. So in this case, the blunt nature of the institutions as of today needs to be looked into. And basically, it's just a shift in the way we deal with things to organize implementation in a coordinated manner. And we come back to agriculture, sir. What do we need today to create the atmosphere for technology to pervade the whole of agriculture? It's just organize the agricultural sector. Let me tell you, sir, between 2005 and 2015, China targeted 20 million smallholder farmers, basically transferred the use of technology on how to apply fertilizer. And they saw tremendous yields of 20 million smallholder farmers. Why were they able to deal with 20 million smallholder farmers? Because they have the soft infrastructure called data on the smallholder farmers. So such infrastructure does not exist today to sharpen execution on agricultural policies in Nigeria.
Okay, Dr. Kwasari, we're going to come back to you. Thanks. But what has remained constant, in all your submissions this morning, it has been the issue of technology. I think we are in a global, we are part of the global setting. And we have discovered that, look, even when you talk about agriculture, you talk about education, whatever that it is driven by science and technology. And the point is that we are not growing indigenous technology in the first place. We are importing technologies that expire. And you need now to buy, the new ones, and all that. And with that, I'm not sure it's possible to address some of these issues. But let's go to a manufacturer who has been there for over 40 years, if I'm right. I knew him way back in the 1980s when he was doing firefighting equipment by himself. And now we're talking about Chief Executive Officer of Erisco Foods, Chief Eric Umovia. Chief Umovia, let's get from your experience what it has been all this while that you've been in manufacturing. Put that in context of what we're discussing this morning, which is, of course, Nigeria after oil. Let's hear from you.
Thank you very much. Well, this is one of my best days of discussion we are doing from NTA. It's a good wake-up call. I thank you for that, both to government and to individual. Because Nigeria after oil concerns everyone, not only government. Nigeria after oil is very important, though if God is hearing my own prayers, I don't want to hear 50 years is very far. However, I want Nigerians themselves, government and we Nigerians to believe in this country and use the remaining part of 30, 40 years of oil to energize our own industries. Because oil has dealt with us. Oil has caused a lot of damage to this country. When I was small, in faraway village of Amish, I saw my father's cocoa farm, I saw my father's palm farm, but now, because since oil came, oil is like spirit, and the money works like spirit, and it works. I thought that spirit never catch a country. Nigeria is only where spirit of oil money costs spirit to the system. Everyone wants easy money. Easy money without foundation can never take you to anywhere. Even religion we believe said you should work before you have. Now, if Nigerians start now, today, I think we'll get to there. Everybody is talking of agriculture, very good. I want to remind Nigerians that what about cocoa we've been controlling, producing for many years? Any processing? No. Any manufacturing? No. We are making the economy of other countries via our agriculture, where we're supposed to focus on producing and manufacturing. You grow a fruit, you plant today. We thank God we have a good land, arable land in this country, very fertile land. Maybe that's why God don't want to answer our prayer by oil. Because we are strong, we plant what we can eat, more healthy, more proud, everybody will be happy to himself than few people to control the economy, and the economy is bleeding, more people are not having job. If we are focused like cocoa now, government will say, okay, I want to focus on processing cocoa. I will not export one single cocoa from this country again. Let them come here and put the plant, export from Nigeria. It's a good thing, but we keep saying agriculture. I'm a practical manufacturer. I know the problem of Nigeria is not agriculture. The government has tried enough now. They have set a good step for us to follow, but are we patronizing product of made in Nigeria? You as individual, your organization, your family? How can we expect to have change without bringing out money? Or want to go to heaven without dying? It's not possible. So what I'm trying to say, after oil, Nigeria will be better, more strong, because we found what we have, eat fresh things, not to eat what they are sending to us here. If you like it, don't like it, you eat and die gradually. For example, now the son said they are talking of livestock. Do you know that if Nigerian process meat, grow meat and process meat to supply Africa, is a lot of good money to come into this country? But for the fact that we don't know the impact, we're talking agriculture. My friend this last year farmed cassava, and the cassava was everywhere. He lost money, 6 million, run away. If there were manufacturing and processing plant, that's what we need in this country now. You can't do agriculture without processing and manufacturing. It's impossible. But people think you grow good food today is done well. I have more than what I had before. When you don't sell it next year, you run away. But if there's manufacturing and processing, you process either for export, if there's excess, or process from local factory to use. But we have not done that area. Now we are talking of oil, gas, and everything. Gas required to be used in the industry by a special generator that costs not less than 100 million naira. How many people can invest on that without good support? The what government is doing now, if they have done that since we've been saying it, I thank God they ran their rights now. CBN is doing excellently well now. Government itself is trying to they are firing from all angles now. Though it's coming to be late, but it's better to be late than never. But the important thing is that Nigeria should start now. We can't just be talking. If you talk to any government officer or any person, they need to diversify. The same person that needs to diversify, go and ask, this is what I need to do. This tell you, oh, too much is too much. Then we continue to pack our money outside, wounding the economy, depending on oil. In fact, if God loves Nigeria, he should take this oil away so that Nigeria will know whether they are going to go back to. We have been living fine. We use oil money to destroy ourselves, our economy, to the highest grade. So it's good you do this program now. We love it, and I want government to continue to sustain what they are doing. We individuals should key. Oil money is spirit money. Spirit money can never help in the economy. Go to China. China has nothing to do with oil. That's why if I go to China, I like to go to manufacturing factories there to see how they are doing. Go to Japan, go to Taiwan. Those people have made, and they make things that is not possible to be possible. We have oil still. We are inside the water and we don't have water to bath. It's unbelievable. This country, we need to change today if we want things to work well. Practicalize this law for this country. Let good things come to this country. Buy product of Nigeria. Support Nigerians. Give company of Nigerians support. Give them deposit to do the same thing they are doing. They are going to buy overseas. They will not. This is made in Nigeria. I will not. Then you are eating Nigerian money, eating Nigerian economy. You should transfer it to be foreigner. But if you are not lucky, you send it where there is COVID-19. So I want the people to have rethinking again. See, government banned product like rice. Go to market now and see foreign rice. Where are they coming from? Government have done their own. They ban tomato, they're still buying it. Till when will you love this country? The same money you continue blaming government for what you are doing you are wounding us. In fact, we are like somebody that is not sick. So somebody is sick, that is not well. You ask the person, can I help you to hospital? Say no. So he want to die. You allow him to do his wish. This country, everyone of us must stand to the feet now. What is happening now is just a minute of what is happening. All these devices there is because there's no work. There's no work, and government is trying to create their own job. We are not stopping. We are not helping them. We need to create more 100 times, 1,000 times of job for our youth to click where they're supposed to be. When I was growing up, there was hope. Now, where is there no hope? Because of oil money. So I plead that things will be right and done in this country. Everybody will support government policy. Everybody will support his own conscience. According to our religion, say, charity begins at home. I thank Nigerians.
All right. Chief Eric Ubofia, thank you very much there for your comments. But just before we return to our guests again, I think it's useful, Kirian, to provide some perspective, very briefly. It isn't necessarily the case that Nigeria was never a manufacturing hub of some sorts. If you look at what happened, say, First Republic, right up onto the 80s or thereabout, especially after the structural adjustment program, you had industries, and these industries were engaged in manufacturing of various sectors. I mean, when you had WNDC, Western Nigeria Development Corporation, and then the ICC, that is Industrial and Credit or something corporation, it was to advance credit for industrialization. You had industries in the West, you had industries in the East, you had in the Midwest, you had in the North.
You know what happened was sustainability was not there.
No, so that's why I contextualize it by saying after the structural adjustment program of 1986. Look, Odutola Tires, everybody, I'm sure, Kyle, you're familiar with Odutola Tires. It was an indigenous manufacturer of tires. Ribwe Tires was remanufactured by Eribo. Eribo in Benin, Edo Textile Mill, Asaba Textile mills in Aba and elsewhere around the country. So you had industries, but of course, the economy, took a downturn and we failed to manage it properly. But still, in trying to get the policy mix, just hang on, I know, Kwasaria, in trying to get the policy mix, Senior Advocate Retokumbo Okaide mentioned something. I mean, for those who have experience in government, well, that is not necessarily a surprise, but it is useful in getting this thing right. That whether a state executive council or a federal executive council oftentimes turns out to be like a country club, a gentleman's club, where you don't go for serious argument. It's not a parliament. But how do we move from saying you make your proposal? Let's assume you are Minister of Industries, Minister of Agriculture, and there's no synergy. You know, you come with your own memo. I don't interfere with your memo goes, my own memo goes. How then do we ensure that at the end of the day, we are not working in silos, that we can synergize and then canalize all of this? One practical example. Look, why is it so difficult for us to mechanize our agriculture?
Well, thank you very much. For me, there's nothing difficult about these things. It's just you to understand. Like you have malaria, you've diagnosed that you have malaria, not just headache. Then you just put the treatment. I'm not too convinced that year in, year out, the government have been able to properly understood the diagnosis and the medicine to be prescribed. If we want to talk about industrialization, which is across board thing, whether for agriculture or any other thing, industry is key, okay? And that's the point Risco was trying to make. You must have a clear policy about this and do it. If you look at the Western region, even the North, they had a policy to establish industrial, those they call them industrial estates. Now we call them industrial parks. Just do it. Secondly, government will never run an industrial park. It will never happen. Or industrialize, it will never happen. But just create the environment and allow it to be done. And I can just tell you from my own experience as a lawyer who has been in business and who is still in business and who went through government and all that and came back is that, you see, if for instance I want to set up a factory today, government will take at least 30% of my money. Government will take it. Stamp duty, registration fees, consent fees, tax, all kinds of permits. You understand? All that is putting a roadblock in my way of doing business. To be fair to this current government, they identified that the vice president made a lot of noise in the past, and a lot of effort actually, in the past 2-3 years on ease of doing business. It is an acceptance of the fact that government has been in the way of doing business. So, the way forward, just leave the road, allow business to take place. Allow it to happen. People like Erisco Bumpet and everyone, Erisco...
that was his product.
That was his product.
Yes.
People like him and others want to do entrepreneurship. Young people. There's so much creativity and opportunity. But government should just get out of the way. I know the unfortunate part of it is that it's a vicious circle, because if you don't get out of the way, you keep businesses in the unofficial sector. You understand? And you cannot tax them ultimately. But if you help business to grow, they become formal, and you can even tax them. By continuing to keep business this way, they remain informal. So, again, for me, I'm very clear in my mind that it is just a matter of we understanding what we need to be doing and do it. And take a sector. Everything is sectoralized. You take agriculture. Within agriculture, you just allow the value chain to develop. I go back to livestock because, again, just to take up a risk on what he was talking about. It's a huge value chain. Do you know that why people eat pomo in Nigeria? We eat pomo because we don't have a leather industry. We don't have a leather industry because we don't have a modern abattoir system. We don't have a modern abattoir system because we don't have layerage where you keep cattle properly, keep cattle before they are taken to abattoir. We don't have a layerage because we don't have a proper ranch system. We don't have a proper ranch system because we don't have a proper breeding system. Are you getting? Am I making sense?
We have to take a break now. You're making a lot of sense in this.
So just allow the system to work. Leadership. You see, everything boils down to that. Honestly, let me tell you, everything boils down to that. Take one person. Karen, you don't need to be a livestock expert. So far you have focus. Any parent can say, okay, look, go and this is what I want. Milestones, timelines, go and deliver. You will deliver it.
Okay.
And if you don't, you get out of the way. There's no marking. People stay in office and whatever. Nobody cares.
All right, thank you, Adete Kumba Kayode, SA. From all indications, as a man who's been in government, I think what I've said this morning is very apt, considering our focus this morning on Good Morning Nigeria, because it does appear that we normally have a policy somersault, and we have this attitude of not sustaining projects, even those that are already being implemented. You talked about government that cannot do any business, that better create an enabling environment. I'm going to ask Emeka after the break to talk more on that, because some countries, especially those who were, of course, classified as third world countries that are doing well now, the Asian tigers, for instance, they have a way with business. The government doesn't keep away from business, right? And that is why we have multinationals coming from the Asian tigers across Africa and elsewhere in the globe. For now, we're taking a short break. When we come back, the conversation continues.
One live happily ever after.
Auntie, can I have a cookie?
Not until you wash your hands with antibacterial soap. Germs are like dragons hiding everywhere.
I also want to conquer a dragon, Auntie. Me too.
We can. Children are constantly exposed to diseases that cause colds, flu, and diarrhea. Mothers know that washing your hands with antibacterial soap stops the spread of germs and diseases. So you have to wash your hands before touching or eating. And when you come home after a long day and after using the toilet. I love my family, and I know you love yours too. That is why I now regularly wash my hands with antibacterial soap. Would you join me as we wash our hands to protect Nigeria?
The Better Clean Nigeria initiative is in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Water Resources.
My name is Balaunti. I'm the Managing Director of Petroleum Product Marketing Company, a subsidiary of NNPC. There are significant price discrepancy between Nigeria and its neighbors across Africa. There's a discrepancy of between 150 to 250 naira. That creates an incentive for arbitrage, whereby smuggling triumphed by taking petroleum product across the neighbors so that they can be sold at higher price. While the smugglers are making the money, Nigeria is paying for it. And that payment is distorting everything that we do in terms of planning, in terms of our ability to fund, and thereby taking money that is meant for development. The introduction of this Operation White will have a reduction of close to 6 million liters on daily basis, which if you take an average of 150, translate to a saving of over 1 billion naira every day. That is the benefit of Operation White, and we have started seeing the great benefit.
To dey disobey traffic law, they cause accidents. Me, I don't talk, say I no go dey do am again, because change begins with me.
I will no longer endanger my life crossing the express. Instead, I will use the bridge, because change begins with me.
Oga driver, stop this bus now, won't come down. I be one carry me pass where they go.
Make I dey stop anyhow for road, they cause traffic wahala and accidents. So I go dey stop for the right bus stop, because change begins with me.
Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
And you're welcome back. A report just reaching us says that the incumbent Togolese President Faure Gnassingbe has been declared winner of last Saturday's presidential election. Musbah Dan Wahab, correspondent there, reports that the provisional result announced midnight into early Monday by the Electoral Commission indicates that Mr. Faure Gnassingbe received 72% of the vote, compared with about 18% for Mr. Aboyome Kojo, who came second. Mr. Kojo, former Prime Minister and head of the National Assembly, has rejected the result, alleging irregularities in the conduct. The result is to be ratified by the Constitution Court. President Gnassingbe, who took over after the death of his father, Gnassingbe Yadima, in 2005, is going for the fourth term in office.
All right, so that's some news coming from our correspondent, Musba Don Wahab, who is covering the presidential election in Togo. Now we take some tweets from our viewers on the subject matter of Nigeria after oil. And Dele Jack Solomon, for many years, Nigeria's oil industry has been plagued by corruption and mismanagement. This is why we are where we are. Nigeria has immense potential to be a key exporter of food, yet it relies on imports of food to support its rapidly growing population. Nigeria's intrinsic potential lies beyond oil. Agriculture, retail, and ICT are priority sectors.
Reverend Mani Akban, Nigeria is not yet ready for a life after oil. Those countries that are ready invest their oil revenue systematically in other sectors like education, ICT, science, and many more. Here, we are more interested in learning our own pockets, he says. God help us, or help our children.
Titus Mondenok, Nigeria needs to go green, and alternative or renewable energy resources are the way out for our future. Even the oil-rich nations are diversifying towards that stream. What are we waiting for?
The next Nigeria oil is agriculture. The earlier our teeming youths come in terms with the reality, take advantage of it, the better. Those with discerning mind among them are already keyed into the initiative. Today's agriculture is beyond hoes and cutlasses.
Yeah, excuse me, Unwangugu Silvanus. The Nigerian experience after the discovery of oil is indeed regrettable, being the source of endemic corruption that has bedeviled us and kept Nigeria at a third world level, abandoning and forsaking palm oil, cocoa, groundnuts, and coal was our undoing.
We told us Sunday, Nigeria after oil for now will be a total collapse, considering the situation we found ourselves. No state, even Lagos and Kano, can boast to function without oil. We really need total federalism to test run which state is viable. For now, it's a no-no.
Chris Simeon, diversification or not, oil is a blessing to Nigeria. At present, the biggest revenue to our country comes from oil and the gas sector.
Law Alpha C, kudos should be given to this administration for systematically and patriotically diversifying the economy of this country so that in due course the economy will not depend squarely on oil.
All right, this is coming from Abba Tukor. It says government can achieve more if the oil, agriculture, and other segments of the economy are utilized and managed properly for the benefits of all Nigerians.
All right, from Festus Akimba, we are in the era of renewable revolution, and the big fossil fuel producers like Nigeria are already losing influence. Also, many workers depend on government for employment, and losing our main source of revenue will be devastating time to diversify our economy and find other sources of energy.
With the vast mineral and agricultural resources in the country, the future of the country's economic development is not only assured, but indeed sustainable if properly exploited and utilized. So those are the tools that we have. You were priming
yes, Emeka to coming on. What should actually be the role of government when it comes to business? We hear this a lot, that government has no business in business. But in some countries, they have a hidden headline in terms of development. Government really has business in business. For instance, if you talk about some of the countries in the Southeast Asia, like Indonesia, which also has the oil, like Nigeria, does, they diversified over 40 years ago.
Well, we've always diversified. It's important to know that the diversification didn't start today. And what's also important is for us to also now process what you also mean by government. Because the moment you use the word government, everybody talks about the Federal Executive Council. And nobody remembers that there's a fourth layer of government that is called the CDAs, even before you go to the local governments and the state government. So at the level of the sub-nationals, I think that is where we have a problem. I've had arguments where people say to you that the national budget of Nigeria is 9 trillion. That's not true. Okay? The national budget of Nigeria has to be the inclusivity of all the budgets of the sub-nationals, from the local government councils to the state councils. And let me tell you why we have a lot of these issues. If you look at the policy that Dr. Andrew had mentioned, roles were clear there. And a lot of the roles that were given to the federal government were the roles of administration, okay, and oversight. And then you go down to the states where they are not supposed to be the ones that are doing the proper implementation. And that's where you actually see the devil in the room. Because at that state level, state also does not own land. And when you talk about a lot of these community lands being ancestral lands, Dr. Andrew talked about the 20 million people that China captured, okay, and then took technologies to them. We are doing agriculture on the air. That is what we are doing in Nigeria. At the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, they bring out all these very laudable, beautiful ideas, but you don't have land. At the state government, you are not aligning the policies, and not only the policies. Again, the budgets, not only the budgets, the projects, not only the projects, okay? And then the outputs vis-a-vis the allied infrastructure. So anytime anybody tells you agriculture, I say, no. Can we be able to break this thing to what it is? Are we talking about food production? Are we talking about medicinal plants production? Are we talking about industrial inputs? Then what is the role of the mining sector? Can I tell you people, the mining sector is the only sector that can actually give you what they call in situ value. You can make a lot of money by not even bringing out a grain or a ton, okay, of what resources if you're able to do the proper exploration. So we must be able to look at our country in the proper context. You've asked the role of government. And I want to ask a question. Probably Dr. Andrew, who is in the villa, will help us. Has there been any time state governments in this country were asked to bring their budgets, okay, for development, and then they matched it with also the budgets of development of the federal government? Has that ever happened? I'm not talking about governors coming in NEC. I'm invited once or twice to give briefs in NEC. I mean, you prepare a paper for 2 hours and they say to you, oh no, you only have 5 minutes to be able to deliver it. So what do you people discuss at NEC? What alliances can you be able to build? Now, why I'm going to really...
Sorry, they are having a meeting this week and they will be discussing SS crude account and why it was depleted.
Oh,
we read that in one of the papers this morning.
Great. Yes. Great. So that would be good for us. But how are you now tying your population? How are you tying your habitation? You see, there's something we're trying to do. Look at the Ministry of Science and Technology. Each time I come on air here, I say to you, Ministry of Science and Technology, every or most of the agencies that can actually support food production is in the Ministry of Science and Technology. And until we're able to have this new thinking, where we are talking about what we now call nationally determined outputs, like you have what we call your nationally determined commitments in our environmental laws. How many Nigerians, and I keep saying this, know that agroforestry is actually under the Ministry of Environment? Has nothing to do with the Ministry of Agriculture. Yet you go to the Ministry of Agriculture and you see them establishing plants to be able to process agroforestry products. Now, who handles medicinal plants? Under whose purview is that? Yet you have a research center they call the NIPRID that has thus far been able to develop a lot of drug streams that can be commercialized. I have this on very good authority. There are over 250, okay, research outputs documented, but not one, okay, has been put out for commercialization. Why? Because you do not have this so-called land that everybody keeps shouting about. You don't have this synergy that's able to now create it. So in answering your question in just one sentence, you asked me, what is the role of government in business? Let us understand what business of government is, and then we can be able to understand their role. The role of government is to be able to ensure social security. What does that tie to? Jobs. Okay? Ensure national security. What does that tie to? Jobs. Okay? Ensure now what you call the enabling environment for people to be able to do business. What does that mean? That you must be able to develop these policies that tie you as one government onto one program, onto one direction, and which must tie CDA, LGA, state government to our national, government.
Andrew. Yeah. Well, still on agriculture, there was a time you were itching to respond to one of the comments made. Let's practicalize this. Sometimes when you see video clips, when you're talking about agriculture, it's still the same hoes and machetes and wheelbarrows that you find all over the place. Is the land tenure a challenge to say, why don't we see a great deal of enthusiasm at the subnational level where you find tractors and all kinds, combined harvesters, the whole works working, and then all we're not talking about is, we have problems with the food storage, and so on and so forth. Why? What is the problem?
Thank you very much. I think you had put this question to SAN before. Is it possible to mechanize agriculture? Mm-hmm. Yes, it is possible. Is land tenure a problem for agricultural productivity or performance in Nigeria today? No, is the answer. Land tenure system as it is today does not hinder any agricultural productivity. Now let me go back to mechanization. It is very possible to mechanize agriculture, but we must mechanize agriculture differently. We must mechanize agriculture on the back of private sector operation. This is just it. There is no way we are going to ever mechanize agriculture when government, whether at federal or state level, or the LGA or the CDA he mentioned, are the ones driving the ownership of the machineries that will be used on the farms. You see, we have to open up that market. And I think the federal government now is almost there with the policy, with the bilateral program developed with Brazil, where they hope to enable agricultural mechanization managed and operated by private sector, where the whole of the operation is to sell services to smallholder farmers and the medium scale and large scale farmers. If we do not allow private capital, whether you call it capitalism or whatever, into agriculture to drive the penetration of technologies, we are not going to get anywhere. And I think we have to understand why this is very important. We cannot reinvent the wheel. Nigeria is not an island. We have seen it over and again, all the economies of the world developed in this way. There are two kinds of economies in the world. Whether you run a market-led democratic economy, or you run a market-led socialism, which will also work like in China to some extent. But once the market is not driving it, private capital is not allowed to have protection and enablement to bring to bear the two incentives and benefits of interest and profits. Then we are not going to get that. But Kirian, one last thing. Okay. There was a comment about why have industrialization stopped or manufacturing, particularly the agro-allied. It's simple. Nigeria deviated from financing supply chains. Once industries or manufacturing plants don't have sustainable, quantifiable, predictable supply of raw material for their operations, they are going to fold up.
Thank you.
And therefore, we must go back to that part where we finance supply chain, where everything the smallholders grow everywhere in the world find their way to the Ericssons, to the whoever in the world.
Eric Mafia.
Okay.
If you call him Ericsson, that's different.
Is that not?
See him on the screen. He's not Ericsson.
Ericsson, not the brand of tomatoes.
Time is not on our side. Time is not on our side. Why I actually raise the issue of a government rule is that what I've seen elsewhere, is that government bails out. Even when Obama was in power in the U.S., he was bailing out the companies, even and all of that. Sir, there
must be, sir. Just a moment. Let's clarify this. The problem is, sir, government has a specific role, and he has said it. So enablement is allowed by government. And in this, if you look at the APP, we have defined what government should do.
Okay, sorry, we have the time is gone. The time is gone. If government rule is not working, you can change the process. You can change it. You adapt the policy that is workable. The ones who do it is not workable. So what do you do?
It's the execution, sir.
All right, gentlemen, it's been a very healthy conversation, but I would have loved our guests in Lagos to just say one or two, just in 10 seconds. Let's say from Erisco, just in your final thoughts, just in 5 seconds, please.
Now, my final thought is that Nigerians should support Nigerian after oil, buy made in Nigeria, support Nigerian policy. Customs have done their best, don't smuggle more. And if you see smuggle item, don't buy, because it might be poison. Thank you.
All right, and I also like to comment on your suit, which of course I'm sure is made of Ankara, very beautiful. Well, let's get our DPR man there to say something. Your final word, please.
Yes, my final word as a representative of the Department of Petroleum Resources is that well, it's good to diversify the economy, but it's also good to make maximum use of the resources which we have. As we transit to renewable sources of energy, as a country endowed with zero resources, we cannot leave those resources unattended to. So good thing is that Nigeria is now focusing on gas, like I told you, and by the time we get the gas to the people, we will free a lot of foreign exchange that is hitherto being spent on importation of this product. We cannot afford to be a gas country and be importing gas and other foreign products. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Would like to thank you. That's Dr. Musa Zagi, who is of DPR, that's the Department of Petroleum Resources. Thank you very much. You were with Chief Eric Umofia Erisco, of the famous Erisco, who is a manufacturer based in Lagos. Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us on the conversation today. We also would like to appreciate those who've been with us in the Abuja studios. Dr. Andrew Kwasare, SSA, to the President and Agriculture Office of the Vice President. Thanks a lot for being around. Emeka Okengu, also a doctor, development economist, who prefers to be called a farmer.
Proud farmer. Put proud.
Okay, it's a proud farmer.
Thank you.
Proud farmer. I've never eaten your produce, so you bring it from the gate, from the farm gate to the studio, so we can work part of it, you know. I hope your farm is mechanized. You know?
Yeah, yes, it is.
All right, thanks a lot. Adetokunbo Kayode, learned senior advocate of Nigeria, former minister of the Federal Republic, and currently President Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria today. All right, so that does it for the first edition of Good Morning Nigeria for the week. We are back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirin Umar. It's been a pleasure hosting you on the show today. We'll see you again tomorrow.